All right, let's look at 13-2 on page 324. We are still solving proportions, but this time we're going to be using unit rates. We've done unit rates before. So think back to that, and we're going to apply this to solve a proportion. So how can you use a unit rate to solve a proportion? Okay, here is our problem. A bicycle tour group travels 320 miles in 5 days. All right, here's your rate. 320 miles in 5 days. Now remember, unit rate means we want to find per 1 day or per 1 mile, but it would be much better to think of it per 1 day. So using that, we want to figure out how far they could travel in 8 days if they maintain the same average speed. So find a unit rate to solve the problem. Here we are, they show this nice little picture here, 5 days, 320 miles, and we want to know, well, how far will they travel in 8 days? All right, so first thing we want to do is set this up as a rate and then find the unit rate. Let's look at the next page. All right, the first thing they want you to do is find the unit rate. Now remember, the group traveled at 320 miles in 5 days. So you could set this up as a rate of 320 miles and 5 days. Now remember, finding the unit date or rate would be how many miles in 1 day. So you divided by 5, and you would divide the top number by 5, and you'd have your unit rate. So this is basically what they're saying. The unit rate tells how many average miles they traveled per day. So this would be 320 divided by 5 would give you 64 miles per day. Now think about it. They want to know how far they traveled in 8 days. If you get the unit rate, how far they traveled per 1 day, you can figure out how far they would travel in 8 days or 100 days, however many days you want. So the goal is to get your unit rate to figure out and solve this proportion here. So the unit rate is 64 miles per day. The group traveled an average of 64 miles per day. All right, now that you know the unit rate, 64 miles in 1 day, now they want you to find out how far they could travel in 8 days. Right, so we want to have 8 days here and find an equal ratio or an proportion. So if we want to change 1 day to 8 days, we're multiplying by 8. So we're going to do the same thing to the number of miles because they can travel 8 times that amount in 8 days. 8 times 64 would give you 512 miles. So the answer is the group could travel 512 miles in 8 days. If this confuses you, rewind it and watch it again, and just remember, you're setting up a rate, you're finding the unit rate, and then you're going to use it to find or solve a proportion. All right? Okay, looking at the guided practice, I want you guys to go ahead and just do number 1 and number 2, and all they're asking you to do this time is find the unit rate, and then in class we'll practice finding unit rates and then using that to solve a proportion. See you tomorrow.